On today's DNVR Broncos podcast, we're talking about could Ashton Jeanty be a Denver Bronco? He made some interesting comments that back that up. And also, George Payton and Sean Payton maybe hinted at the possibility of that happening as well. We're diving into all those comments starting now. We're doing a throwback show on today's DNVR Broncos podcast, and in classic throwback fashion, there was we did some podcasting that will never be heard, Ryan.
Yeah, you could actually go to the end of the draft podcast and hear about 5 seconds of it, just as proof that like we were here, we were locked in, we were doing our jobs, but you know. Technical difficulties, they always strike when you expect them least. Yep,
they happen. Maybe it's the weather that got them. I don't know. But we're live in the Toyota Lounge, driven by your local front range Toyota stores. Ryan Koenigsberg, Zach Stevens, we got Dion and you here behind the camera. And Ryan, speaking of the throwbacks, when we used to do this back in the old DNVR office, sometimes at your
BSN
apartment.
Office.
Yes, BSN office. Sometimes at your apartment, we just had a little podcasting box. We'd hold the mics for an hour, two, sometimes upwards of 3 hours answering so many questions. Just a blast going down memory lane. But there would be times where there'd be a technical difficulty, and you and I would have recorded like an hour and a half show, and then you'd be like, oh no.
One of the worst feelings
it's
ever.
Not here.
Or a couple different times we finished a whole show and then like it had waves and everything, and then I went to play it and there's just no sound.
That is the worst. And today you realized it because people were calling 10 minutes into our show. People are calling out in the chat that we have a delay of game.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, I don't think so. And then Dion's like, yeah, it was a 3-second delay of game. We're like, oh, it can't be. Like, I can't believe you guys are calling us out for that. Yep. And then thankfully you went in and noticed that the stream just wasn't up for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, someone said like WTF is going on, and I was like, okay, now I gotta like look into this. So that's
and
only 10 minutes went to waste.
Yes, exactly. So much better than like the 90 minutes that we've had go to waste in the past. So let's just dive in to today's conversation. Even though I loved our 10 minutes that were wasted, they were good. I mean,
Aaron Rodgers bit.
Oh my gosh, that was really good. We totally roasted them. Yeah. So let's dive into today's conversation where we're talking about Ashton Jeanty. He had comments earlier this week, Ryan, that were released earlier this week. I don't know when it was actually filmed, and I'm happy we waited to talk about it until today because there were comments from George Payton and Sean Payton yesterday during the pre-draft press conference that maybe add to this idea even more. And is it fair to say that Ashton Jeanty is the dream pick for the Broncos? Take Travis Hunter off because there's no chance he's there.
Yeah, I think it is fair to say that.
I think that's how Broncos Country would feel as well. And maybe even the Denver Broncos. We'll get to their comments in just a second. But let's hear the comments from Ashton Jeanty himself. He was talking to Overtime. I'm not sure if this was a month ago or earlier this week, but it was released earlier this week. Let's hear what Ashton had to say. Can they hear it at least?
So. Who have you been talking to the most?
I mean, so now I have just like separate meetings, like the Browns running back coach wants to talk to me. Like it's all like separate, like who wants to Seahawks. But at the actual draft, I talked to 20 different teams at the combine, and really the Denver Broncos, they was heavy on me, and the Raiders, they was heavy. Like, we was talking the most, like, even while all the running backs was doing drills, because I wasn't competing. Like, they was talking to me the whole time. Like, you know what I'm saying? So.
Who?
All right, so Ryan, two things stood out to me. Obviously, the big one, the Denver Broncos have been heavy on him. But the thing that I just noticed watching it today, and I've watched this clip many times, but the thing that stood out this time was He's like, yeah, 20 teams have talked to me. The Browns, the Seahawks, the Denver Broncos. And he just gets so excited when talking about the Broncos, has a smile on his face. He's more animated. And then he's like, and the Raiders as well. So now I'm like, oh, the Broncos are clearly interested in him. Is he want to go to the Broncos? Want to stay with that Bronco bloodline?
How could he not want to go to the Broncos?
Yeah.
He's been a Bronco. He's worn orange and blue. He already knows that he looks good in that uniform. Of course he wants to go to the Broncos. The same way that J.J. McCarthy wanted to go to the Broncos last year,
Very
too.
True.
And so going back to yesterday's of read between the lines, I've got two feelings about this.
Okay.
One, the less exciting feeling of this is a J.J. McCarthy situation. The Broncos are trying to, let's just say the Raiders really want Jeanty. Maybe the Broncos are trying to convince the Raiders that they're going to trade up to 4 or 5 to get Ashton Jeanty. And so then the Raiders are like, oh, no, if we want Jeanty, we have to trade up to 4 or 5. We can do it easier than the Broncos, so let's do it. That's one thought.
Be incredible to make a division opponent trade up to get a guy that you knew you weren't going to get.
The other side of that is much more fun for me to think about. And it still involves the Raiders. And it's the Broncos saying, like, we deal with enough passing in this division. We don't want a great running back in this division as well.
That's a good point.
You're going to have to, like, the Broncos are built to stop the Chiefs. That's like, the way, not directly, but when you're thinking of how are we going to win this division and get a home playoff game, it's we have to beat the Chiefs. You don't want to go up against a team who's the opposite style of them, who's like, we're going to hand the ball off to Ashton Jeanty 30 times a game.
Yeah.
And not to mention how much that Ashton Jeanty would help the Broncos.
Yeah.
And maybe the Broncos are saying, like, we've got to make sure that they can't get him, and so we're going to go up and get him.
Yeah, I love that. I love all of that. I hope it's the second one there because Ashton Jeanty, Ryan, the Broncos are a Super Bowl contender this year if they get Ashton Jeanty. And Sean talked about it yesterday, and this isn't even the comment that we're going to talk about later with Sean. He said, when asked about getting weapons for Bo Nix, he said, instead of pointing to a receiver, a tight end, more of a receiving type of running back, he said the two things, and he says, I truly mean this, the two things you can do to help a young quarterback or any quarterback, but especially a young quarterback, is a great defense and a great running game. Well, Ryan, when you look at the Broncos' run game, they have the offensive line to be a great run game. Could they upgrade center? Maybe. Like, I don't even know if they could upgrade center this year in this draft because of Luke Wattenberg being like a good center. Yeah. But they're just missing the running back. So you get an elite running back in this draft. You get a guy that's worthy of being a top 5 pick at running back. Okay. Now we're talking. Now we're talking about you have the complete package on offense. On defense, you have a number 1 defense, the third best defense in the NFL last year, and you just added 2 huge pieces to it. This is Super Bowl content. That's what you're talking about. So that's when it comes into play of like, is it worth trading a future first-round pick or a second and a third-round pick, one of them this year, one of them next year, to go up and get him? And if you believe, like I do, that it would make you a Super Bowl contender, how do you say no to that proposition?
And that's where I come back to. And then I'm just redigesting what Ashton said. If the Broncos truly believe that they had no shot of getting him, they would not be heavy on him.
Yep.
Like, it's a little different, too, than McCarthy, where last year it's like, yeah, the Broncos are drafting a quarterback.
Yeah.
They're going to be talking to everyone. If the Broncos truly believed, like everyone else believes, that they have no chance of getting Ashton Jeanty, why would they have spent that much time and put that much effort into this?
To your point, Ryan, last year in the draft, obviously everyone knew Caleb Williams was going number 1 overall, but everyone also knew the Broncos were going to draft a quarterback. And we talked about it on the show. Should the Broncos consider trading 3 future first-round picks and a star player to move up to number 1 to get Caleb Williams? The Broncos didn't even consider that. They said, we know we're not going to get Caleb Williams, so we're not going to waste our time on him. They did homework on the rest of the guys. Then deeper into the process, they understood that Jaden Daniels was going number 2 overall, so they kind of backed off on him. And they did so much research on those other guys, but they didn't touch Caleb because they knew they weren't going to have a shot at him.
Yeah.
So to your point, if they knew they had no shot at Ashton Jeanty, why would they be doing heavy work on him to where Ashton goes out of his way to mention how the Broncos are doing all this work. It's a really good point.
Yeah, 100%. And the only other side of this, though, and someone asked in the comments, like, are we 100% sure that Ashton Jeanty is the best running back in this class? And my initial knee jerk was to say yes. And then I just think about Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Everyone would have said Caleb Williams is 100% the best quarterback in the draft last year.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even top 2.
Yeah.
Now it's 1 year. Plenty of time for, things to change. But, so no, I can't say without a shadow of a doubt that Ashton Jeanty's the best running back in the class. I can't say that it sure looks like he is.
It definitely does. And what I'll say is if he's not the best running back in this class, I don't think that's going to be a knock on him. Meaning in 5 years, if we look and we say, oh, wow, this person was better than Ashton Jeanty, I still think we're going to say Ashton Jeanty's a Pro Bowl running back. Now, maybe he's not all pro, which I think people expect him to be an all pro running back, but I think it's because, let's say, a TreVeyon Henderson or an Omarion Hampton becomes like a Hall of Fame type of running backs because someone else takes a massive jump. I have a very hard time believing that Ashton Jeanty is going to be a bust in this league. Again, maybe not the LaDainian Tomlinson like Henry believes he might be, but he's going to be a Pro Bowl running back. Now, the question is, do you trade 2 first-round picks in order to get a Pro Bowl running back? Probably not, especially in this deep of a draft class. Would you trade 2 first-round picks if it gets you an all-pro running back, a multi-year all-pro running back?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. And then anything on top of that, of course you're doing that. So it's how good do you think he is? Because that's where I would draw the line. Pro Bowl? No. All-pro? Yes. Especially with where this Broncos team is at now.
How many all-pro running backs are there?
A handful? 5?
I think it's less than that.
If that?
2. I would say 2.
Derrick Henry, Saquon.
No, I'm saying in a year.
Oh, yeah, 2.
2.
Yeah, exactly. So you're getting a top 2 running back.
Yeah, if you're gonna say that you're gonna have a top 2 running back in the league for multiple years, you would be. Now, I just think that's a big leap, and that's where I think my take on Ashton Jeanty might be my most average, down the middle, like mild take I've ever had. Usually I'm on one side or the other. People who are obsessed with Ashton Jeanty think I'm too low on him. People who aren't that high on him think I'm too high on him. I'm like somehow right here in the middle. Usually I gravitate towards one side or the other. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to be great. And I actually think the Broncos should, if given the opportunity, trade up to get him. I also don't think that he's just a lock to be a Hall of Famer.
That's a fair take.
I don't know if I would say that about anyone in the draft.
Travis?
Yeah, I mean, like if you're saying
the closest.
Yeah, for sure, but
still not a lot.
There's just no such thing. I don't think there's any such thing.
Yeah.
A lot has to go your way throughout the course of an NFL career for you to be a Hall of Famer.
Even like Andrew Luck, who was viewed as truly, I know generational is thrown out way too often, but he was viewed as like
the next John Elway.
Exactly. And that's why the Colts said bye to Peyton Manning, because they thought, okay, we're going to get this next great one for 10 more years than Peyton's going to play. And look what happened to him. He was just hit too many times, and he just said, F it, I'm done. I can't take this anymore. The injuries are really stacking up. So even those type of guys, Caleb Williams.
Lawrence.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, Caleb Williams. It's really good examples of that there. So then when you say trade up, how far would you trade up? And let's also hear from the Broncos, because they actually, after hearing them talk, George and Sean talk yesterday, Ryan, I came away from that thinking Ashton Jeanty to the Broncos in a trade up is more realistic than I thought going into yesterday's pre-draft press conference. And I did not expect to walk away from talking to George Payton thinking that he might trade up for a running back. But after hearing from him, that's what he made me feel. You tell me if I'm lying or if I'm off base with that or not after I give a shout out to our friends over at Timeline, where Timeline sells health and longevity supplements featuring their proprietary MitoPure ingredient. And MitoPure works with the cells in your body to help reverse age-related decline. The benefits include strength, energy, and endurance. I don't know anyone that would say, I'm not really looking for strength, energy, or endurance in any part of life. I think everyone would say,
facts.
Yeah, sign me up for strength, energy, and endurance. And that's what they are offering over at Timeline. They've done 15 years of research and secured over 30 U.S. patents for their product. And the cells in our bodies are the building blocks of life, and Timeline is a supplement that works with those cells to give you more energy, feel stronger during workouts, and preserve health and mobility as you start aging. So Timeline right now is giving you 10% off your order of MitoPure. Go to timeline.com/DNVR today to get started. That's timeline.com/DNVR. That's 10% off by using that code DNVR over at timeline.com/DNVR.
Also here at DNVR, we have you covered from floor to roof. And that's why we give a shout out to our friends over at Red Hawk Roofing. First and foremost, I love the Red Hawk Roofing guys because they are true Colorado sports fans.
Yeah.
They found us because they were fans, which is the best way to begin a partnership.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they're the best in the business when it comes to putting a roof over your head. Something that's pretty important. So go with the pros and make checking your roof a part of your spring cleaning routine and catch any issues and repairs before they get out of hand. There's no project too small for our guys at Red Hawk. They're your go-to for anything from minor repairs to full roof replacement on your home business. So hit up our friends over at Red Hawk Roofing at redhawkroofing.com or call 720-771-8921. And don't forget to tell them that DNVR sent you.
And shout out to everyone that's tuning in with us, even with the technical difficulties. Hit us with a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. Subscribe. We've got that Benny Fowler interview dropping, I believe, later today. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And also got to give a shout out to our Die Hard sale, which we've got going on right now. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to want to be a Die Hard for all of our draft content, not just over on our website, but you'll be able to watch our show during the draft next week if you're a Die Hard, with the draft board around, with best available players, with all of Fran's insight. It's going to be awesome, well worth it, and it's over half off right now. So go to thednvr.com, click the link in our description for that, and join us at the draft party by going to thednvr.com/events. We're going to be out at Stoney's next Thursday night for the first round. Would love to see you there. All right, Ryan. So yesterday, going into the draft or the pre-draft press conference with Sean and George Payton, I thought there was no chance the Broncos were trading up for Ashton Jeanty. That dream was dead, as everyone who's come on the show has pretty much killed that dream.
Yep.
George Payton, maybe the least expecting guy, kind of rejuvenated that dream for me, made it live a little bit.
Gave it a little MitoPure.
Exactly, yes. Reversed that. Made me feel like, okay, we've got a shot maybe. But before George talked about the running back position, Sean talked about it, and he was asked, like, there's a thought by some people in the NFL that you don't take a running back in the first round. Do you agree with that? And Sean, by the way, you've drafted 2 running backs in the first round. George, you've never drafted a running back in the first round. And then that's when Sean was like, I've drafted 2? I've only drafted 1. And it was, Reggie Bush. And he's like, oh, of course, I would never forget about Reggie, even though I just did forget about Reggie. So let's hear from Sean first, because he also had an interesting part of this answer of, would you draft a running back in the first round, regardless that it's a position that some don't view as valuable?
I think it's all about your vision and your vision for the player. I think there is this feeling oftentimes that there are certain positions that may be more available every offseason than others. And yet you've got to look at the ability and look at, I remember the selection of Reggie and how that evolved very clearly. And Ingram, our plan was to take Mark at 22, and then Cam Jordan fell to us. We kind of still didn't want to lose track of the Ingram thing, and then we traded back in. So I think if you have a real clear vision for how you want to use them, I think it's just the team's feeling for how good that player is and what type of career we think we can have. And then sometimes it's just, the way the draft unfolds, sometimes you don't take one. It's not because you don't want to take one. It's just that maybe another position, landed in your lap. So a lot of it is your team and then the player specifically.
That was Sean saying, yeah, I'll draft a running back in the first round because it's about vision, and if the player's good enough, if they identify the player's good enough, that means Sean Payton's going to have a vision for him. Sean Payton is not one to just follow the NFL train, as he likes to call it, and say, no, running back, you can't draft that in the first round. Obviously, he's done it twice, and I don't think he'd be afraid to do it a third.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I love about Sean Payton.
Yep.
He doesn't do anything without conviction.
That's for sure.
And I relate a lot of things to golf, but it's like the only way you can certainly be wrong about your decision on the golf course is if you're not convicted in it. And as long as you believe in what you're doing, you're going to increase the chances of your decision being the right one.
Yep. There was an awesome quote from Sean yesterday. He was asked, this is a little off topic, but you're going to like this since you brought up the golf. He was asked, when competing in a division like the AFC West with the Chiefs, and you feel like you're closing the gap, and do you feel like you got to be extra aggressive at times? And then the question was even framed like, you're a golfer. Do you ever bring out the driver when maybe you feel like you shouldn't? And Sean answered it with a football answer first. And then he said, for being an average to below average handicap, I probably bring out the driver more than I should.
Yeah.
And that means he's going to be swinging. And that means he's going to be doing some aggressive moves, and trading up for a running back would be exactly that.
If I was on the golf course with Sean Payton and he laid up, I would be shocked.
Yeah, no. He's going for the hole in one every time.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I like about him.
Yep, I do too. And that's why I'm not surprised to hear that Sean would draft running back in the first round. Am I surprised to hear that George would be open to it? No, but the way he talked about it opened my eyes a little bit. So let's hear from George, who just piggybacked right after Sean's answer there. Let's hear from what George had to say about this yesterday as well.
We haven't drafted one where I've been. I mean, I benefited from Adrian Peterson. I got there right after they drafted him. And he impacted that organization for a long time. And if you can find a guy like that, you take him right away. And if he's the best player on your board, he can impact your team. I think you take him regardless of the position.
So, talked about an Adrian Peterson type, how he benefited from an AP. And then right after that, Sean and George went back and forth about how George did draft a first-round running back just in the early second round with Dalvin Cook. And so George was like, oh, yeah, okay, I've done it multiple times. But so when I hear him talking about Adrian Peterson, and if you can get a player like him, you do it in a heartbeat. And obviously, if Ashton Jeanty falls to 20, it's easy. That's the pick right there.
Yes.
But now I view it through George Payton's lens, and I say, if you view Ashton Jeanty as an Adrian Peterson type, which might be along the lines of the LaDainian Tomlinson type, that's well worth a first-round pick, an additional first-round pick to go and trade up for, especially with where this team is at, right?
Yeah, I mean, elite running backs will change the trajectory of your franchise. And in this case, the trajectory is already good, so it'll just spike it up faster. But it just makes everyone's life so much easier. It makes your offensive line happier. It makes your quarterback happier. It makes your offensive coordinator happier. It makes your defense happier. It's a game-changing type of move. Now, I would push back heavily on any comparisons to Adrian Peterson, who to me was the best college running back I've ever seen with my eyes. And then, of course, did it in the NFL as well. But if you're telling me you could even get 85% of Adrian Peterson, I'm taking it in a heartbeat.
I know it was in the Mountain West compared to Oklahoma, but didn't Ashton Jeanty have better stats than Adrian Peterson?
Probably. I don't care. I really
just the
don't.
way, the film?
Yeah, there's just a difference between going up against Texas and New Mexico.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I see what you're saying there. But Adrian Peterson was the 7th pick in the draft, I think, right?
I don't know, actually.
I don't think he was a top 5 guy. He was a top 10 guy, but I think he was right around 7. And I mean, Cornhole in the Twitter chat's telling me to stop it. Don't be dense comparing these two. If
7.
you're talking about, the 7th pick in the draft, as opposed to, we're saying he might go 6th in the draft, or yesterday in Fran's mock draft, he went 5th in the draft. He's a top 5 pick. Like, he should be that special. When you draft a running back in the top 5, top 10, he should be that special. Now, maybe he's 90% of AP. To me, that's worth it to go and do. And so that just opened my eyes when George said it like that. Well, if you think the number 1 running back in a very, very deep draft class is that good, then you make that jump up and you do it.
So very, very similar carry numbers here.
Okay.
Adrian Peterson played in 31 games in college. He had 747 attempts for 4,045 yards.
Okay.
Ashton Jeanty played in 40 games, and he had 750 carries, 3 more carries for 4,769 yards. So it was 700 more yards.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Both 6.4 yards per carry for Ashton, 5.4 yards per carry for AP.
My goodness. So with that Mountain West discount, the CAP?
Mountain West discount gets out about to 1,000 yards. I'm just kidding.
Damn.
No, yeah, no, he's not. But he's still very, 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 very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a game-changing player for the Broncos, and so I'm in.
So if I told you that in the Broncos draft room, they are drafting a running back in the first round, and you can get Omarion, Hampton, or TreVeyon Henderson at 20. You don't have to trade anything. Or in order to get Ashton Jeanty, you have to trade a future first-round pick, but you're guaranteed him if you do it because you're moving up to 5 ahead of the Raiders. What are you doing?
So, yeah, my thing is not about what pick I would be willing to get. And Henry's been talking about this a lot. It's you create the package that you'd be willing to part with for Ashton Jeanty. And then you would just offer it to every team as long as he's still on the board until someone takes it. Or and if they don't take it, then you move on.
So what'd you do at first? Well,
next year's first?
Yep.
That's it?
20 in next year's first.
Absolutely.
Over Omarion, Hampton, or TreVeyon at 20?
By a lot.
I think I might be there. Because Ryan, speaking of throwbacks, this pod's a throwback, and a throwback to when we had the discussion of when do you trade a first-round pick? You can't trade a first-round pick until you have your quarterback.
Unless it's for the quarterback.
Otherwise, you can't. You can't be trading a first-round pick for a running back when you still don't have the quarterback because you're going to need that first-round pick for a quarterback when they have the quarterback. So now it frees you up so much. And that's why when you talk to Sean and George at any point throughout this offseason, they're so much more relieved. They're just so much more carefree because they know that they have the biggest token checked off their box right now. And that's why I would do it too. I'd be open to it.
As long as it hits, as long as you don't end up with a bust.
It's got to hit.
The Broncos, I'm curious to see what their Super Bowl odds would do. What are they at about right now? Plus 1,300 or something?
I think it might be even deeper than that right now. When you pull that up, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Empire Today, where we've got you covered from the floor to the roof, from Red Hawk Roofing to Empire Today. And over at Empire Today, they're not like your big box stores where you just wander endlessly and then somehow you're hauling things around and you don't even know what it's going to look like. No, over at Empire Today, they give you a look at exactly what your future floors are going to look like. And all they do is live and breathe flooring. And so they're going to be with you every step of the way. It's a whole different ballgame than how other companies do it. They're floor experts. Bring the showroom right to your home. Pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space. And you can see how it looks in your home with your furniture in your house. So if you want to check them out, they're going to give you a $350 discount when you use the promo code DNVR over at EmpireToday.com. You can schedule a free home estimate today because some things are just better at home, and you can get that $350 discount by going to EmpireToday.com/DNVR. Make sure to tell them that DNVR sent you. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday.com/DNVR for full details.
All right, I spent too much time looking up these odds, and now you got to help me with the next read.
Tell us about the DNVR Ball Knower bonus, Ryan. You know about this.
I know all about it, and it's one of my favorite ideas we've ever had for the merch shop.
Yeah.
Basically, right now, you go over to the merch shop, spend at least $25, and then you get tested on whether or not you know ball. The first question for the DNVR Ball Knower bonus is, where will Travis Hunter go in the draft? Number 1 or number 2, that's one option.
Oh.
Or number 3 or later. That's the other option. All you got to do...
Oh, so we're giving you options.
You got two options.
Is it 50-50?
50-50 chance. You take your pick of those two. If you get it right, whatever you spent in the locker, you're going to get an equal gift card of that much money.
And it's a 50% shot.
And it's a 50% shot.
So which one are you doing? Can you give away your ball, Noah?
Yeah, I would go 1 or 2.
I would too. Did you hear the way the Browns GM? Of course you did. The Browns GM talked about Travis Hunter. Was it yesterday, the day before, in his pre-draft press conference? It was like he was having the press conference after he drafted Travis Hunter.
Which, the way that everyone's pretty confident about Cam Ward going number 1, he might as well, if that's what he wants to do, he could have Travis Hunter if in his mind.
Just start hyping your guy up right now.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And so I'm right with you. I think he's going number 2 to the Browns, which is incredible.
All right, Broncos Super Bowl odds currently plus 3,000.
Plus 3,000.
I think, and maybe I'm getting crazy here, my first time around Ashton Jeanty that I'm going over the board over top. I think that if you get Ashton Jeanty, it starts with a 1.
Wow. I was definitely going to say 2,000, but 1.
So, 2 plus 2,000 would get you behind the Bengals in front of the Packers.
Yeah.
Plus 1,900 would also get you there.
Yeah. I see that. That would be something.
And it's really not that crazy. By making that pick, you would jump the Vikings, the Chargers, the Rams, and the Packers.
Yep, as they should.
I feel pretty good about that too.
Man, and this would show that they're all in for right now. Their window is now. And then
your window is the Bo Nix rookie contract.
Yeah. And a couple of years after, because the big cap hits won't even set in then.
For sure. But that's the way you should be viewing this.
Right.
When you hit on a rookie quarterback, it's just like, okay, now is our best chance to go get it before we have to pay him a ton of money.
And you know who I guarantee you knows that and is approaching this season like that? Is Sean Payton. I know that for a fact. And so that's why you make a move like this. And then on top of it, if you're trading next year's first-round pick, Ryan, you still have a second-round pick this year and a third-round pick this year to add guys. And at 51, you still should be able to add a difference maker, whether it's along the defensive line, whether it's at receiver. You're probably not going to go another running back there because if you're spending 2 first-round picks on Ashton Jeanty, he's going to be on the field this entire time. You add a second joker. By the way, Adam Schefter on ESPN yesterday said he expects the Broncos to add another joker early in the draft. Well, maybe it's early as like the 5th overall pick if they move up to get Ashton Jeanty. Did you see the pictures of Ashton Jeanty at his pro day?
Yes.
I had this conversation with Dre after the show yesterday. I think he is the physical specimen in this draft.
Wow.
And Dre gave me pushback because he's like, the edge rushers and some of the defensive linemen. And I guess I have to preface it at 5'8". He's a physical. Yeah. He does not look like a running back.
No, you got to see this running back who just entered the portal from Georgia.
Is he like that?
Insane. Insane.
Is he maybe going to Boulder?
Who knows?
Anytime you say that, it means there's a pretty good chance.
No, I honestly don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's a beast. He's a beast. And he's built in a way that just makes him so hard to tackle.
Yeah. Yeah. And he is that joker we can play he can play slot if you want to. He can line up or he can catch passes out of the backfield. He's your 3-down back.
And, yeah, for sure. 4-down back. Give it to him on 4th, too.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, you brought up at the very beginning, I can't remember if it was the real show or the fake show, about the message that he posted.
Yep. Oh, yeah, let's bring that up.
Okay.
We've got that, Dion, if you want to pull that up for us, please. You want to read it?
Sure. I've taken the long way. I'm done with that way. If you pick me, simple. I'm coming to your franchise to do what Saquon and the Eagles just did. I'm coming to win big soon. It's tackle football. You know what I'm saying? I'd draft the guy they can't tackle. Thank you for your time, Ashton Jeanty.
Woo! That is a pretty bold statement there.
It's a very bold statement. And I want your reaction because my reaction is skewed. So I want to hear yours.
I like the confidence. It does make me worried that he's setting, I guess it's good he's setting high expectations, but man, there's a lot that people could troll in a year from now.
For sure. My instant reaction, honest to that, was what would they do if Shedeur Sanders said this?
Oh, of course. You know what they would do.
Yes. Rip him to absolute shreds.
Yeah.
If he said, I'm coming to do what Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are doing.
Yep.
He would get killed.
Yeah. Totally.
Same thing with Travis.
Yep.
So that was my initial reaction.
Yeah,
After that, I was just
fair.
like, what possessed him to do this?
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone knows you're that good.
Yeah, I'm fully on board with all of it except for the Saquon comp. Comparing yourself to the best player at your position in the league.
But if he's going to be a top 5 pick, Saquon was number 2. Like, shouldn't he be in that conversation?
Yeah, you're just putting expectations on yourself that you don't need to do.
Yeah, especially when everyone already has high expectations.
Exactly.
And you're just raising the bar right there. And also, when I view that from a Broncos perspective, I'm like, it fires me up. It's like, okay, let's go. We've got the team. He's that final piece to go win. Dude, you might be drafted by the Raiders. You might be drafted by the Jags, who have been to 1 playoff under Trevor Lawrence. You might be drafted by the Giants, who are you're probably going to a spot where you're not going to win, and you included the winning piece in there. I like it because it shows he's more about than just himself. He's about the team, but you're really good, which means you're going to be drafted by a really bad team.
Yeah, but at the same time, in terms of drafting him, it doesn't change it makes me like him more. I like that he's that confident in himself. And Sean Payton, who didn't he say yesterday, I'm not afraid to put high expectations or whatever he said?
That was it.
He loves it too.
Yep, he does. All right, we're going to finish this conversation. I have no idea how much longer it's going to be because of our technical difficulties, but we're going to do it over and overtime over at thednvr.com. So make sure to join the conversation over at thednvr.com for the rest of this. Where do we go from here now, Ryan? I'm thrown off with the technical difficulties. We jump into our draft?
Yeah, let's jump into our draft.
Let's do our draft. And really quick, when Dion's pulling that draft board up, want to give a shout out to our Die Hard sale, which we've got going on now. It's through the draft, and it's so you can get the best draft access, not just for the Broncos, but you get the access of the Avs. AJ's writing so many awesome articles. The Nuggets. We've got so much awesome content coming out from Ball Arena with the Nuggets in who knows what this playoffs is. I mean, are you approaching this as house money playoffs?
No. I expect both teams to win the championship.
I like that. I'm not doing that with the Nuggets either, because when you have Jokic, you've got a shot for anything. But tons of content over at thednvr.com. We've got Scott's got an article tracking everything you need to know about the transfer portal right now. So many good things. Justin's taking care of all the CSU stuff as well, so make sure to stay tuned to us. Get your membership half off. It pretty much pays for the free t-shirt you get, and then you get the rest of the content for a year for free if you want to view it that way. And also, join our draft party next Thursday night, thednvr.com/events. Okay, Ryan, you want to set the scene for this draft?
Yes. So last week we did our My Guys draft.
Yep.
Which was just guys that you really like. That resulted in Henry getting flamed to the high heavens.
Yep.
Because everyone thought that was what he wanted the Broncos to do at number 20. So I figured, why don't we just have a draft of guys that the Broncos should pick at number 20?
I love that. And it's just 2 of us. So 10 people that we're going to be drafting here. And
wait, so this says Broncos first round pick. Does that mean it has to be realistic at 20?
Yes. Right? Okay. Yes.
I'm just checking.
Yes. Because there's not enough room to put up the full trade package that you would give for Travis Hunter to move up there.
What about Ashton Jeanty?
No, can't do it. Gotta be realistic, but we don't have 3 people on set. Dion, you've got to be the tiebreaker here to see if that player will be available. And Ryan?
I think everyone other than
Is Mason Graham? We could just set the scene. Travis Hunter's obviously.
I think everyone after the top Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, Mason Graham, Abdul Carter.
Is Tyler Warren available?
Yeah, call it there. Tyler Warren's the last guy that you can't pick.
Okay, I like it.
All right. Am I going first?
You got the first pick.
It's gonna end up looking a lot like my guys.
Yes, it is.
First pick, I am taking. Stuck between 2. Give me Matthew Golden.
Matthew Golden, the good one. Wasn't that your first pick in the My Guys draft? Yeah. Well, it shows you're aligned with what you think the Broncos should do. I am going to go. I'll tell you what. George Payton and Sean Payton. I don't remember exactly which one said this, but said 20 is a really good spot to be in because it's a light first round this year in terms of the talent. They said they feel like you can get the same player at 10 as you can at 20, but then they went a step further and said they actually have more players graded in the 10 to 20 range than they do the 1 to 10 range.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So they really think kind of the value in the first round is between 10 and 20. And I see that outside of those, 5 guys that we just ruled out, there's not like a top 6 guy that I'm like, man, I really want him. They're all kind of the same in my book here, which does set up good for if the Broncos don't trade up. But in terms of the Broncos, you go wide receiver. Just got to stay true with my guy. And what I think would also help the Broncos the most, and this is TreVeyon Henderson here. And I know some people might say it's a stretch, but I think this is a guy that would absolutely open up the Broncos offense. I don't think his presence would be felt that much differently than Ashton Jeanty's, Ryan. I think he can be that dynamic with Sean Payton in terms of being that Alvin Kamara, and that is a game-changing type of player. And I know the Broncos are very interested in him. Talked to some people in the building after he was there on Wednesday. They're very impressed with him.
Okay. So you're saying over 1,000 yards as a rookie?
Easy. He's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher plus, I think he's 15. It's really high.
1,500 all-purpose?
That's what my heart says. I'll say my mind says 1,300. Yeah.
All right. Are we alternating or snaking?
We can alternate. Yeah.
I'm coming around on this. And
I know where you're going.
It had a lot to do with Fran and the way that he framed it, and the way that I think the Broncos could double down on this position by getting a guy in the 3rd, 4th round in addition to a first-round pick.
Oh.
And so I'm going to go Omarion Hampton here.
Oh, okay. I like that. And I'll tell you what, I see Fran's reasoning for going Hampton, and then Brashard Smith.
Yes.
Jaden Blue. There's so many other guys that are so dynamic at receiving backs.
Exactly. And, Dre was talking about, Brashard Smith could fall to wherever.
Yeah.
There's no real floor for where he could go. And it's going to just be where teams are in love with.
Yep, 100%. Man, he's one of my guys. I drafted him last week, too. I'm going to go with where I thought you were going here. I thought you were getting convinced on the tight end train here.
Oh, no.
I'm going with Colston Loveland here, and I think if they make this pick, they're just making Evan Ingram a receiver. And then that receiver hole that you think they have, now it's totally gone. If Evan Ingram is truly a receiver and Colston Loveland is your tight end, I think this is a move not just for the future, but also for the present. So give me Colston Loveland there.
All right.
Who's going to be the first to not go offensive weapon?
I really don't want to be. But I'm trying to get myself out of my guys mode.
Yeah.
And just into really good player mode. Oh, boy. Let's go here. Walter Nolan.
It's a really good one.
Yep. Trying to take my medicine here. I think it was, I forget how many times out of the last 10 years the Eagles have taken a defensive lineman in the draft.
Yeah.
In the first round. He's a difference maker. He's a beast. He's everything that you want from a guy in there. The reason why I don't love it is because I feel like it's not a need right now.
Yeah.
But as someone once said, there's a crystal on the board. Don't take a blender just because there's a blender available.
And you know what? Someone replied to us and said, what if you can get a crystal blender?
Wow.
Is that Ashton Jeanty? I think Ashton Jeanty's the crystal blender.
The crystal blender, dude. That's what people have been calling him forever.
Yeah, that's a good one. Walter Nolan, what's crazy about him is I could see a scenario where the Broncos take a running back at 20. Walter Nolan slides to pick 33, 34, 35. The Broncos trade up in the second round to get him and then come to the pre-draft or the post-draft press conference and say he was a top 10 talent on our board, and everyone rolls their eyes, but it actually being true.
Yeah.
Just because of how deep this defensive line class is, I could see guys falling. Sometimes with the deep class, sometimes there's a big run at the top of the board. Or sometimes guys fall because it's like you said, I think about the running backs. You said this yesterday, like who's going to blink first? And maybe someone just waits. People wait to blink, and then guys fall on the board. I also wouldn't be surprised if he's picked at 11 by the San Francisco 49ers, another organization that loves to take front 7 guys, specifically that defensive line right away.
And everyone like plays against a team that has 4 great defensive linemen and is just like, this is impossible.
Yep.
And then for whatever reason, we end up falling in love with every other position.
Right, 100%. I'm going to go with this pick. Man, I'm going to stick with offensive weapons. I'm going to go Igbokwe.
I'm hoping you take someone.
I'm going to go Igbokwe here. And the reason for that is I almost went T-Mac. The Broncos just can't.
I wanted you to go T-Mac.
Yeah, they can't gamble with the guy that I think has a really high ceiling, but also maybe a floor on this team that's not.
I don't think he has a low floor, man.
Not a low floor, but Igbokwe, you're getting a damn good player.
Yes. Igbokwe is the safe, smart, solid wide receiver who maybe, given the target share, becomes a superstar.
Yeah, exactly. Like you guys pointed out, he played against with some really elite receivers and still was able to put up good numbers.
Kind of reminds me of I don't know, I'm in these big basketball analogies lately, but Karl Anthony Towns at Kentucky wasn't asked to do very much. They just wanted him to be a big.
Yeah.
And then he got to the NBA and was like a knockdown 3-point shooter, and everyone was like, "Where? What?"
Yeah.
And maybe that's what Emeka Igbokwe is.
Yeah, just waiting to be unleashed.
Yeah. Let him shoot his threes.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm not afraid to go here because I think that this player is actually really high on the talent rankings in terms of this draft. And so I'll go TreVeyon McMillan.
Okay.
And I think that there's a real chance there that they could say that we had him as a top 5, top 10 talent.
I agree.
And he fell to us.
The fascinating thing is, what does that mean for Courtland Sutton's future? Because we know the Broncos are waiting to extend any of their current players until after the draft. What they'll say is it's because we're just focused on the draft. No, it's because you want to see how the draft falls.
We talked yesterday with Benny about the ability to take over a game. I've seen it several times with TreVeyon McMillan. Now, it's different, very different in the NFL, but I just know what it looks like when a player has a matchup that he can't be held, and he did that several times.
Yeah, very good point. Dr. Van Nostrand in the Toyota chat says, no chance Warren drops to 20? No, absolutely no chance. So he is off the board. Ryan, I want to ask you, can I go with Will Johnson here, corner from Michigan?
Yes.
There has been no talk about him.
No buzz.
Maybe it's just because we're in Denver and the Broncos have Pat Surtain, but I feel like from a national perspective, there has been no buzz around him. But if you get the best corner in this draft, I love Riley Moss. But then Riley Moss becomes your nickel, who I believe the Broncos still have a vision for him potentially playing nickel. You have the best cornerback trio in the NFL for the next 5-10 years. And you're paying all of them big-time money to have the best secondary in the NFL. So I would go Will Johnson there. And I would not... We haven't talked about him much. If he's there, this is a pick the Broncos could absolutely make, from my understanding.
Totally. And, Daniel's saying he's going to go top 10, 12. I mean, no one would be surprised.
No.
The PS2 slot, to me, is right where he should go.
Yeah.
And he could go even higher than that.
Yeah.
But you're right. No one's talking about him. Maybe it's injury related.
Yeah.
Middle
of last season, everyone was talking about him. And then literally it's been 6 months since I've heard a thing about him.
All right.
Maybe, honestly, your guy Travis Hunter has killed him with that. Because it's just Travis is... maybe with wide receiver, too. Travis has kind of hurt everyone.
True. He's...
Because he's that good.
He's just different.
Yep.
Different than everyone ever. All right. This last one, I'm going to go here. And I think that this is my hottest draft take, and this is the best edge player in the draft.
Yeah.
And that's James Pierce Jr.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's a high upside play that if he's available, I personally think that he could end up having a better career than Abdul Carter. I do it.
The talent's there. He was supposed to be the number 1 overall pick in this draft just a year ago right now. So I like getting that, and he's a guy that could definitely fall to 20. And also Sean or George yesterday indicated, like, they didn't say it word for word, but they essentially said, we could draft a position that we don't need and that we view as an absolute strength right now. We could still draft that because he would help us this year, but then also for the future. And the Broncos haven't paid Nick Bonito yet. They're paying Jonathan Cooper $15 million. That would be so expensive to have him as a backup. But, hey, if you think Nick Bonito's elite and you think James Pierce Jr. is elite, 2 elite edge rushers, we know what that does. It gets you Super Bowls. DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller. Oh, by the way, Shaq Barrett and Shane Ray coming off the bench that season. Yeah, I don't hate it.
If you take James Pierce and you put him on Penn State and put number 11 on him, everyone's talking about him being the top 5 pick.
Yeah. My only thing with James Pierce is just it seems like there's some weird off the field, heart for the love for the game sort of things.
Yeah, there's been a few things that have come up, and I think that's why he would be available at 20.
Why he falls, yep. And with this one, Ryan, I'll go in the trenches with you. I'll round it out with Kenneth Grant, just a guy up front. I think it's very much a possibility that they go with a front 7 defensive lineman. Walter Nolan would have been my number 1. You took him before I was able to get him, so I do like having both of us having defensive linemen.
Yeah, and Derek Harmon, another guy who I almost went with in my 5th round pick.
Yeah. Well, there we go. You're going to be able to vote for this over at DNVR.com. Make sure you vote for me again. I beat Ryan big time last time. He thought that maybe it was a little unfair.
It's not a competition. This one is.
Okay, this one is. So tell us which one you like. We're going to do it over at DNVR Broncos, DNVR_Broncos on Twitter. We've had quite a week. We've had pretty much every combination that this show can currently have. It was you and Henry to start the week. Yep. It was the 3 of us. Then we had Benny on. I guess Henry wasn't on with that one. And now rounding it out with a little old school Ryan and Zach here. Heck of a week heading into the draft.
And we have just about exhausted every draft conversation that is possible.
Yes.
It's time to get this thing going next week.
Yes, let's do it. And I think we have 3 more unique conversations to have next week.
Counting on you for that.
Starting on Monday. Don't worry, we've got it. And one super chat coming in from an OG, the Danimal, who says, kind of feels like you guys put up a new link to avoid the epic smack talk in the last chat for bombing the recording. Do shots on air until you learn your lesson. On me, of course. Danimal, I didn't see that.
Also, not our lesson to learn.
Yeah, whose lesson? Producers? I guess, yeah.
It's not anyone's. It's not anyone's fault necessarily, but I think a lesson was learned.
Yeah. I think so. So appreciate you, Danimal, for that. Appreciate everyone for sticking with us on a second try of this. And man, those 10 minutes. Best podcast that will never be heard.
Never be heard, but sometimes things are just great to hold between us.
You know, it was nice to have those 10 minutes with you, Ryan.
Thank you.
So shout out to everyone tuning in with us. We are 6 days away from the draft, and have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you on Monday to really kick off draft week.
We all silly like the mayor.